Are we on, Caitlin?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Second, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Montour. I am the Director of Public Works for the Six Nations of the Grand River Territory. Recently, the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council sent out a community survey to obtain community member input on what our priorities should be moving forward. The top priorities that came back was identified as our roads. Enhancing road and bridge maintenance capacity is also identified in the 2019 Six Nations Community Plan. We're here tonight to present the results of a few studies that have been completed that will guide our short-term investments in our roads. I want to point out that there's no clear timeline right now for the work proposed for the Ohsweken area that will be presented. That is capital dependent. Also, the surfacing plan that's going to be laid out is our minimum commitment to the community, meaning that we may increase the amount of road sections that we resurface should we have the opportunity to do so. I'm very proud to work for the community that I was born and raised in. I'm incredibly passionate about igniting positive change in Six Nations. Been in this position within the community for over 10 years and have been a part of bringing in over $50 million of funding to address many areas of needs within our growing community. Turn it over to my teammates, Vince and Darren, to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Vince Longboat. I'm the Technical Services Technologist at Public Works. I've been here for just over 2 years now, working along with Mike and all the Public Works staff, road staff, water and wastewater to get a number of projects out to tender and work with alongside everyone at Public Works.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Michael and Vince, and welcome Henry, who's going to walk us through the presentation. And I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm obviously from Six Nations of the Grand River. I'm the Chief Executive Officer, formerly the SAO. And I've also, Vince, been here for just over 2 years in this role, previously working in British Columbia and Alberta in similar roles. So really looking forward to sharing this results of this study and plans with community. And as Michael said, this is sort of the minimum commitment to community. In fact, we are working very hard to do more. So I just wanted to kind of provide that to everyone. And this is a broader context of our infrastructure planning for the entire community, which is inclusive of housing, water services, and everything that's related to that. So I just wanted to bring that forward as well, just to let everyone know that there'll be more updates coming regarding those other areas of our valuable infrastructure to really increase the prosperity and quality of life in the community. So thanks everyone for joining. I'll turn it back to Mike.
Thank you. Roads foreman Kevin Salt isn't able to be here tonight, but he has been part of our team since February 2006. He brings with him 30 years of experience in the road maintenance industry. He's a certified heavy equipment operator and holds his certified road supervisor senior designation through the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors. Now I'll turn it over to Henry Senton to introduce himself and present the results of the transportation and road needs studies. Henry?
Thank you, Michael. Good evening to the viewers. My name is Henry Senton. I'm with Negan Burnside Limited and Burnside and Associates. I've been with the firm for over 40 years, working in various capacities, but for about the last 20 years, I've been focusing in on transportation and traffic studies. And I've done a number of studies throughout the province, probably about 20 through that time in road need studies, and then also a number of traffic impact studies and transportation master plans. I'd like to take you through just a summary of what we have completed here over the last year. We started this study in 2021, and it was finished this past summer. The study had two components. There was actually two separate studies. One was the transportation component, and the second was for the road needs component. We did a similar study about 10 years ago, I think maybe a little over 10 years ago, for Six Nations. And this was an update of those studies, and typically, at least for the For the road need studies, they're typically done on every, say, 3 years or 5 years. And in this particular one, it was 10 years between the studies, because things are always changing. Of course, growth is changing within Six Nations. The road is also deteriorating, or the road system is deteriorating over time due to either environmental factors or due to the loading on the roads. So it is good practice to have these studies updated on a timely basis. In this particular study, I'll go first through the transportation study that we did. And the transportation study, it had a focus of 3 locations within Six Nations. The first location was in Oswegan, Chiefswood Road in Oswegan in particular, for the section that is built up now, and looking at that area and how the traffic was what the transportation needs were in that particular section of the road. The other 2 locations that we looked at, we were asked to look at, were the intersection with Chiefswood Road and so the Sixth Line and Chiefswood Road, and also Sixth Line and Tuscarora Road intersections. And those were noted because of some issues related to how traffic was moving in those intersections and the potential for needs relative to traffic movements and sightlines in particular. We were looking at, if you just want to go one back again there for a minute, to the previous slide. The time frames, we did some forecasting up to 2031 and 2041 as the forecast dates, to see how the traffic was going to be growing over that period of time, so that any of the decisions that are made by Six Nations on upgrading their road system would be accommodating a 20-year life for the road upgrades. Next slide. So this is in general, in the area of Oswegan, what we did find was that at Fourth Line, the intersection at Fourth Line with Chiefswood Road, it's a signalized intersection, and it does have left turn lanes installed, and it is performing reasonably well. Although we did find from the traffic counting work that we did that the southbound movements there did have queuing issues associated with them. And so one of our recommendations was to continue to monitor that signalized intersection over time, and to adjust the signal timing that would allow it to perform better than it is currently performing. For the section between Fourth Line and the Village Plaza or Sunrise Court, what we did find was that there are a number of access points along that section. There's no turning lanes that have been installed. And so the warrants for turning lanes are met currently for a number of those intersection locations or those access locations. And because of that, we were suggesting that there should be a widening through there to accommodate a left turn lane. And because of the density of the access locations, we're suggesting that it would be a continuous left turn lane through that whole section. And that would be suggested to be done anywhere between now and 2031. 2031 was sort of the ultimate, that it should be done before 2031. The other focus that we had here was on Sunrise Court. And there is a pedestrian crossing at that location. It's an unsignalized location. The difficulty there is that in order to signalize that intersection, there needs to be some adjustments made to the actual performance of the intersection relative to the access points into the Village Plaza. So the recommendations that we were making there is to signalize the intersection. That will provide some additional improvement to the pedestrian crossings at that location, but it will also allow for having a single access into the Village Plaza to replace the 2 existing. So the 2 existing unsignalized access locations would be consolidated into this new crossing and this new signalized intersection. To the north of that location, by 2031, you will have a similar, with the forecasted traffic growth, we're suggesting that you would have a need in those areas as well for a two-way left turn lane, similar to the section to the south of Sunrise Court. And again, that would facilitate the turning movements there because the warrants are met for turning movements because of the large volume of traffic that is on Chiefswood Road. We also looked at or did consider a pedestrian crossing to the north up by Bicentennial Trail, up by Markle Mann's driveway. We didn't have enough data really to confirm just that the warrants were met at that location, but the desire lines for pedestrian crossings are met at that location. So we had recommended that Six Nations continue to monitor that area and that they could consider what we call a pedestrian crossover. And these pedestrian crossovers are implemented via signage and flashing beacon lights on the signage, and then a crossing marking on the road in that area. So that sums up what we looked at from the transportation point of view in Oswego for the section of Chiefswood Road. The section with respect to Sixth Line, the Sixth Line intersection, we looked at a number of traffic control options. It's a two-way stop-controlled intersection currently, and on Sixth Line with stop signs. But we were asked to look at whether it could become an all-way stop control with stop signs on all four of the legs coming into that intersection. And we did look at that. We concluded based on our analysis that wasn't recommended because it was going to result in some capacity issues on Chiefswood Road. And so we had suggested that it would be better if you wanted to have control on all of the legs coming into that intersection to implement a roundabout. Unfortunately, in that area, the roundabout, first of all, there's a fairly significant cost, but also it would affect the development that is occurring already or has already occurred at the quadrants of that intersection. So it could be something in the longer term to be considered, but at this point, the volumes aren't justifying the need per se, because there is the option of continuing to have a two-way stop control intersection at that location and implementing a eastbound and westbound left turn. If you want to put the next slide up there. So just to put up in the right-hand corner of the slide, you'll see the intersection, an aerial of the intersection with the Sixth Line and Chiefswood. And what we did look at as well was whether there was any safety concerns there. We didn't have we didn't have collision data to go over them, but from a review in the field, it was clear that there is some potential for having sightlines implement or having sightlines constrained by either signage in the quadrants or other things within the quadrants of the intersection. But in particular, vehicles coming southbound across the bridge also have a limited sight distance to view traffic coming off of Sixth Line. So we had suggested that should continue to be monitored, and also speed should be monitored through that area, because the sightline requirement is directly required by the speed and the operation speed on the main road in that area. So that was in addition to the left turns, or to considering the eastbound and westbound left turns off of Sixth Line, some ongoing monitoring would assist in determining and making sure that this intersection continues to operate safely. The other intersection that we looked at was Sixth Line and Tuscarora Road. In the bottom right of the slide, you'll see just a view from Tuscarora onto Sixth Line. Similarly to the Chiefswood Road intersection, we were suggesting that there should be some review of any obstructions to sightlines that may occur there. But it appears that there is sufficient sightlines, but again, it's dependent upon whether or not the speeds are in accordance with the posted speed in that area. So we are suggesting that there should be some signage, just warning of the intersection, and also some ongoing speed work done to ensure that that the sightlines do meet the actual speeds that are operating in that area. Next slide, please. The next 3 slides are actually showing what we did, a preliminary design of improvements to Chiefswood Road in Oswego, and you'll see on the slide that's before you here, you'll see the grayed areas are the number of access points that come into Chiefswood through that area. It also shows the extended, or the amount of widening required in order to accommodate this 2-way left turn lane. And you'll see it's a 2-way left turn lane commencing to the south of 4th line, and then becoming a dedicated left turn lane at the intersection, the signalized intersection. And to the north of 4th line, it becomes again a 2-way left turn lane to be shared in both directions for turning movements into the accesses in that area. So this goes up to the gas station, this first slide, but the next slide will continue on. So starting from there, it goes up to, from the gas station up to Sunrise Court. And at Sunrise Court, you'll see that the 2 entrances that go in there now are proposed to be closed and replaced by this new signalized entrance that comes in. And you'll see the widenings there as well. The section to the south is already what we call urbanized, which is a curb and gutter and a storm sewer system, whereas a part of Chiefswood Road within Oswego to the north here, north of Sunrise, is what we call a rural cross section, given that it has either drainage ditches in it or swales that end up requiring culverts, etc., to function for the drainage purpose. We would be recommending that you would be urbanizing when you would expand the cross section here. It would be urbanized for to have the urban cross section with the curb and gutter continued on to the north part of the built up area. So next slide, please. We're also recommending some improvements to sidewalks, some continuation on the east side of the road, all the way up through to get past, so that there is, which is typical of arterial roads, and this would be considered to be an arterial road. It's typical to have sidewalks on both sides to minimize the number of pedestrian crossings mid-block required across the arterial road. So this shows you sort of where it terminates, and then it becomes more of an urban, or more of a rural section to the north of Bicentennial Trail. Next slide, please. Okay, so that sums up the work that we did in our study for the transportation component. I'd like to just go through quickly the road needs study that we completed. The road needs study was focused in the area, in order to determine what the condition of your road is, and that's based on a visual assessment and what we call a pavement condition index that is established from that. And the pavement condition index is established by having a visual review. We send our technicians out to do that review, and again, it's really looking at how the different type of distresses that the roads are experiencing, and from cracking to various other types of distresses, and then using formulas that have been developed by the Ministry of Transportation to convert that over to this pavement condition index. So really what the pavement condition index tells us is what kind of condition the road is in, and that informs us as to where it is within its life cycle, because the road has a certain life cycle associated with it. It degrades over time, and that and so in order to implement the appropriate the appropriate response to the condition of the road. We need to know where it sits within that life cycle so that it hasn't gone sort of beyond the point where a certain type of improvement may end up not really giving you the value that you're looking for because it's gone either too degraded or it's just the wrong time in the overall life cycle for that particular improvement. So it's very important to establish this pavement condition index on a fairly regular basis. The other element that goes into determining the needs for your roads is the traffic. And we did the traffic 10 years ago. We did the traffic again this time with a fairly significant number of traffic counters that were put out throughout Six Nations, and coming up with what we refer to as the annual average daily traffic, which is really just how many vehicles will travel over that piece of road in a day. And so we updated all of those so that that could also be put into the overall decision matrix on what the needs were and the improvement types were recommended for individual sections within the overall network. We looked at the whole network and we developed an improvement matrix similar to the matrix that we developed previously, but with some changes based on the emphasis that has occurred over, say, the last 5 to 10 years on implementing more maintenance earlier on in the improvements, in order to ensure that you get the best response from the capital investments that you're putting into the road network. It's good practice to have a full range of types of improvements, and we've defined them here in the last paragraph. Routine maintenance, which is more of a crack sealing type of an approach. Preventive maintenance, which is either a slurry seal or a microsurfacing of the surface, again mostly to reinstate the surface so that it doesn't allow for moisture to penetrate. And then resurfacing is generally addressing the surface distresses that have occurred over time by either milling or the surface, or removing the surface and replacing the surface in the case of an asphalt surface. And rehabilitation, which in the is generally a situation where you're doing more work to reinstate the actual degradation that has occurred, which might include pulverizing the granular, or pulverizing the asphalt surface and building it up again with some additional granular material and then repaving it again. And then the reconstruction, which typically occurs when you have other needs for improvement. In the case of Oswego, reconstruction would be the requirement because you're widening out the road and improving the whole cross section there by going to an urban cross section. But and when you're doing underground works as well, then reconstruction would be the preferred approach to accommodate that. But we used, for this particular one, it was unique from the point of view in the last number of years. We have started to work with a company called Street Scan, who has a piece of software called Street Logics. And the Street Logics software allows for many things, but it really allows for having the ability to do a lot of what if scenarios and to manage your system a little bit better from the point of view of a better understanding of how the system is degrading and what the input would be, or the impact would be, for various improvements to various roads at various times. And so we did use the Street Logic software, and it was very helpful for that, especially in the sensitivity analysis associated with the what if scenarios for budget and improvement types. And the software does have degradation curves. They're somewhat generic from the point of view that they take a road, and we need to make a number of assumptions that that road will perform the same way. But each road is unique in things like the amount of truck traffic it has, or the amount of traffic it has, and also what the actual road construction was initially. And so the degradation curves give us give us some information related to how it might perform over time, but it is also good practice to attempt to make it unique from the point of view of having every when you do future upgrades to see how these degradation curves are performing relative to being the forecasting tool that they're intended to be. Next slide, please. This is just a printout from that software package, which does tell you and shows you just in a very high level way what this pavement condition index, and it goes from 1 to 100. It's just a rating scale, and the green lines are at the top end of that scale. Those are good and excellent roads. So they're either relatively new roads or they're performing relatively well, and they're not in need of immediate attention other than perhaps some preventive maintenance that may be applied to them to seal them up again, but really nothing in the form of a resurfacing or rehabilitation. Then you get into the yellow roads. The yellow roads are the poor to fair category. So there are a number of roads that are shown that way throughout the Six Nations. And then you're into the red roads. And there's very few. I think there's maybe one or whatever over in Oswego that was dictated as being very poor. And so it basically, this is fairly typical of most municipalities or First Nations. It does show you that over time you're going to, with the budgets being limited, always you're always going to have some roads that are into that fair or poor category, and those we refer to those as sort of backlog roads. In other words, those are roads that in order to get to a point, which is really what the life cycle improvements are intended to do, is to remove some of those backlog needs early on in your 5 or 10 year capital plans. And that allows you to get to the roads to a certain level of condition that allows you to then proceed on and maybe broaden out to address some of the roads that earlier on in their life cycle with either preventive or routine maintenance or even resurfacings. The theory being that if the roads are allowed to deteriorate too far in their life cycle, with each time they deteriorate from one type of improvement to another, the costs go up fairly significantly. So it is good to try and get the maximum lifespan out of your road system by using a life cycle approach to the management of the system. The next slide, please. So falling out of that again, and the decision tree that was put into StreetLogix, it does tell us what the recommended improvements would end up being. And starting at the top here, again, green being the ones that would more or less line up with the good and the excellent roads. Defer maintenance simply being that with limited budget, you're putting your monies towards either preventive maintenance or rehabilitation or resurfacing. And so the blue in here is showing the resurfacing roads that are being recommended. And again, based only on condition of the road, okay, at a point in time. And then the rehabilitation is more extensive work that needs to be done to the road. And then ultimately the reconstructions, but there's no reconstructions shown here. Okay, I mean, from a condition point of view, you are going to have reconstructions, as I said, through Oswego, but it's not because of the condition of the road currently. It's from the transportation needs of the road in that area. Next slide, please. This comes from our report, just one of the tables from our report, and it is important to realize that there are various needs within your system. The traffic volumes are one. I mean, you have on Chiefswood Road, for instance, between 8,000 and 10,000 cars on a daily basis. So that is a very significant number of vehicles. It's an arterial number, a road number, and then it goes down from there. So we've shown these ones, but we've also shown here, and that's a significant aspect as to how your roads are going to perform, is what kind of percentage trucks were recorded when we did the traffic counting work. And you can see it's fairly high, like Chiefswood has 13%. So, I mean, that's a reasonably high number, even for our arterial road. And then it goes down from there. And then you've got, a more typical number would be like the 6 to 8% number. For truck traffic, but you do have a number of trucking companies and some other commercial development that has occurred on some of these roads, and so it's not just the arterial connecting roads that are being impacted, but it's some of these secondary roads as well that are being impacted by the truck traffic on those roads, and that truck traffic does have a very significant impact on how on the design of the road, but also on its longevity. Over time. So it is important to continue to monitor that and to take the right and the appropriate treatment at the appropriate time. We have some here, like this one in particular, it's a fairly small amount of traffic on it, 200 to 500 vehicles in a day, but the surface treatment surface may not be sufficient even at those volumes to really hold up over time. So that would be a situation where you may want to go to an asphalt surface instead of a surface treated surface on that particular road. Next slide. I think are we into the, no, okay. The budget implications. What this slide shows is, and again, because we were using StreetLogix, we were able to fairly quickly look at various scenarios as far as the budgets that's being put in for improvements to your road. So we started with 700,000 a year, we went up to $1 million. And what we concluded out of that analysis is that it really should be over $1 million on a yearly basis to really get to that point where you have reduced the backlog significantly enough so that you can manage your system with ongoing maintenance work plus still, I mean, you're not going to eliminate the rehabilitation and the resurfacing requirements, but you will have a better performing road condition-wise if you can get the budget numbers up into that category. So what our study did was it looked at, it devised a plan for a 10-year improvement plan. Our budgets were set at 1.3 million a year, and I think that ultimately, that's one component that fed into the decision making by staff. Staff provided input to us as well on priorities and on their local knowledge of how the roads were performing and the needs associated with the roads. And so the ultimate plan that was developed, we have a plan within the report that speaks to the condition improvement needs, but that is only one factor. And there were a number of roads that even with that 1.3 million, there was still about 60 kilometers of road that would not be addressed in that 10-year plan. And so because roads deteriorate over time, that does reflect the fact that you need at least that amount in order to ensure that most roads will have some form of intervention over that period of time. And so ultimately, between our report and the information we were able to provide, the staff then also looked at our 10-year plan and developed a 5-year plan. What you see here is, as we talked earlier about the pavement condition index, the pavement condition index that we calculated for existing conditions is around 70, which is a good pavement condition index. It's not really low by any means, but it is still in that category where it's more in the fair to good type category. So what our 10-year plan, which this graph that you see there shows, is that the 10-year plan that we developed, and I think we were in the initial going, we were, I don't know, something like 1.5 million per year in order to keep it steady up to, say, year 5, where it's fairly similar. It's a 71 pavement condition index, and then from there, if you would spend that amount of money in the initial going, then you would have the opportunity to have your system and the improvement overall in the next 5-year period, because you've gotten rid of a lot of the backlog that is sort of dragging down the overall condition of the network. You would have some improvement over time by the end of that next 5-year period. So it's a bit academic, this analysis, because up to year 5, we're fairly comfortable with it. After that, the modeling and the capability of the actual forecasting through the model is, it doesn't take everything into account from the degradation point of view. It attempts to do that, but what we have found in our experience is that next 5-year period, if you go out there in 5 years and do another study, you will find that it will be somewhat different than this scenario that is presented here from a budget point of view. But I think the takeaway from this is that we are suggesting a fairly significant amount of budget per year, and I think that ultimately I think maybe the amount that is put forward in the 5-year plan that staff ended up proposing is something in the neighborhood of 1.5 million per year. So that's the end of the road study presentation. I think the next slide pertains to the 5-year plan, and I believe, Michael, that you are going to maybe speak to this plan here, because you're more familiar with the roads, etc. But I can say for this one that it's divided up into the various improvement types, rehabilitation or resurfacings, and the year that they're proposed. It is a 5-year plan, but it gives you some idea as to when any particular road is anticipated and the type of improvement to that road over the next 5-year period. I'll turn it back over to you, Michael.
All right, now Henry. So this slide outlines what our plan, resurfacing and rehabilitation plan, is for the next 5 years here. So Henry did speak to the overall 10-year plan, but we've shrunk that down to short term. So everything in red, everything solid red and dash red is year 1. So that'll be year 1 would be next year, 2023. Anything in orange, dashed or solid, would be year 2, 2024, and so on. So purple would be 2025, would be 2026, and green would be 2027. And then from there, it'd be great to kind of stock of how we've done and how we've impacted the network, and come back out to the community even before then to say, here's the next plan for the next 5 years to finish off this 10-year period. That's what again, as I noted in the initial the outset, that's our minimum commitment to the community. We may choose to accelerate different things in different sections depending on how the seasons impact them, because everything's impacted by the climate change and the freeze thaw and the trucking. So those are our best laid plans at this moment in time. And working with Vince and Darren and Kevin to really make sure everything's tendered out and we get contractors in here to execute this plan. All right. Before I open it up for questions, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to watch this presentation and remind the community. If you weren't able to watch and interact with us live here tonight, we still want to hear from you. And there are a number of ways to get in touch with our team here at Six Nations Public Works. So there's emails there for myself, Joseph Martin, or you can follow us on social media or visit sixnations.ca. Also want to encourage the community to follow our Six Nations Public Works Facebook page. Complete the Six Nations Energy Survey posted on there right now. Missed out on the chance to provide your feedback and win a $50 gift card to a local business. These studies are components of our planning for our road network. We also have an inspection of our bridges and cross culverts underway, the results of which will be presented to council and the community during a council meeting in the coming months. Also preparing to undertake a transportation study. So please provide us with feedback when the community engagement is launched for that project. And we are currently in the design stage to implement a roundabout at the intersection of Highway 54 and Cheesewood Road, which there will be specific community engagement in the future. I'll open it up for questions now. Fire away. Gonna check in with Caitlin, who's facilitating this. Caitlin, is there any? Oh, okay. People are typing. So just a general comment from Mike Comanche. Yeah, it gets backed up there real bad. People are trying to turn on 6th line off Cheesewood on recommended improvements. Marty General commented bad when cars speed over bridge on pavement evaluation map. Thank you for that, Mike and Marty. Definitely, we get a number of complaints, and these are kind of the best laid plans, not only here at the Public Works Office, but also Chief and Council are continuously asking us to follow up on different complaints. So that's part of why we've included those areas in our in this assessment here. Dave Anderson commented, or question is the Highway 54 light controlled by Brant County? If so, can the nation convert traffic signal to live? So yes, the Highway 54 light is controlled by Brant County, and they are looking to incorporate some improvements there. Looking to incorporate and implement some AI technology until we get our roundabout put in place. I'm not sure if you wanted to just comment quickly on the roundabout events. I know that'll draw a lot of interest because I get a lot of complaints in that regard, and I know our office does. Maybe that'd be a good item to elaborate on.
The roundabout, yeah, we're currently in preliminary design right now for it. What it's going to do is, like most roundabouts, it's going to improve the accessibility around through that intersection there. As for Mike's comment about 6th line, it may impact that with more traffic at that intersection though. So that's something we'll have to look at as we go through that process for the design of that roundabout. We're looking to probably go to maybe a public information center, probably at the community hall with some drawings and some face-to-face stuff that people can come and look at in the future.
All right, thanks, Vince. That'll be fantastic to actually get people out and have some food and talk about a project in person. That'd be great. Okay, follow-up question from Dave. Until roundabout, can you ask Brant County to convert to live? So I'm assuming what does he mean by live, Vince?
I think right now, just to answer Dave's question, I don't think they can put it live right now, just because the wires in the road have been cut for when they were installing some underground infrastructure over there for fiber optics and whatnot. So that's why they're looking to go to the AI technology.
All right, thank you, Vince.
Yep.
A question from Derek Martin. If you need a culvert cleaned by the road, will roads crews be doing that? Yes, absolutely. We do clean culverts and maintain the culverts within the road allowance, which is 66 feet across or 33 feet from the center line. So if you have a culvert specifically that you need cleaned, please call the Public Works Office, 519-445-4242, and report it, and we will make sure that the appropriate resources are notified. You're welcome, Dave. All right, so there's no more questions noted. Again, just want to note that if someone's out there and they're watching this later on and they had a question, please reach out. Our contact information was provided. Follows fails, call 519-445-4242. That's our Six Nations Public Works Office line, and they'll direct your call and get to the appropriate team member to follow up with you. Now, everybody, I appreciate everyone's time, and thank you, Henry, Darren, Caitlin, Vince, for everything you've done here tonight. And take care and stay safe, everybody.